Hey, what is up YouTube? So for today's video, I'm going to be going over how to make this comic book frame. You can see there's a little slot in the top where the comic book slides in and slides out, and it's also a top loader to keep it protected. There's a bunch of different thicknesses and a bunch of different widths and heights of top loaders. For this video, I'm going to be going with the smaller top loader in particular, just so the pieces that I use will cover up to the edges and it looks like a complete product instead of having a bunch of clear in between and then seeing the wood behind it. So let's get the measurements and let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is measure the top loader. So this top loader is 7 9/16 wide. It's actually 7 7.5 plus 7 9/16. The length of it is 11 inches. So we'll call it 7.5 by 11 because I'm going to add some to it. And it is a 1/4 inch thick. So let's go get some materials. Alright, so we're heading to Home Depot. I'm choosing Home Depot just for whatever reason, doesn't matter. There's like a Lowe's right across the street too, but I need somewhere where I can pick up some like balsa wood or some kind of like little hobby wood. And I also need some kind of finished wood for the edges, and then I need some backing wood to hold everything together. Because I haven't really designed one that doesn't have an open back. Which if you're going to mount it on the wall or whatever, you're not going to need anything with an open back anyways. So I'm going to get the backing material, I'm going to get the sides or like the inside material, and then I'm going to get the face material, and I'll see you guys when we get there. Alright, so for the back of the board, for the back of the comic book frame, I'm going to use this stuff right here. It's 5mm 2x4 underlayment. And it looks real sanded, like it's got a smooth finish. It's relatively thin, so it's not going to bring your frame off the wall that much. And it kind of has a nice finish, so it'll be easy to paint or stain or whatever. So that's what we're going to be using for our backing. But before we get to that, let me go find some kind of strips for the face. The next piece of wood I'm going to get is this stuff called screen right here. It's pine, it's stain grade, in case you want to stain it or paint it, which doesn't matter. And then it's 1/4 inch by 3/4 inch pine screen, 56 cents a foot. So you're probably only going to want to get as many as you need of this, because you don't want to, you know, get a whole stick. I think these come in it's like 16-foot sticks, so you don't want to get a whole stick and waste it all. So just cut off what you need. All right, so for the skeleton of the frame, I'm going to be using these dowels here. It says square dowel 3/8 by 36 at Home Depot. It's got like this little turquoise / blue painted tip on it, and it's 3/8 of an inch thick here by 3/8 of an inch tall, 3/8 by 3/8, and it's 36 inches long. So roughly for a frame, I'm going to be doing 11 inches high on both sides. So I need 22 inches, plus I need 7.5 inches wide, so 22, 7, 29. So this is perfect for one frame. Table. Actually, they have a salt table set up right here, so you can set it up here, cut off as long as you need, so you're not paying for more than you actually want. Plus, make sure you pay attention to the edges. This looks like somebody tried to cut it off already and nicked it up a little bit. So let me cut off a piece of this. I'll get right back to you. I got the edge pieces cut, the screen material. Cut that at about 42 inches. Alright, so I have a bunch of power tools that I could do this with at home, but I'm going to do this so you guys can do it for pretty cheap. I'm going to pick up one of these Husky Pro miter back saws. It's like 10 bucks, and it's get the one with the really fine teeth, so you can cut this wood without chewing it up too bad. And then also they have this little miter box here. It's 5 bucks, and this thing allows you to set the wood in there and cut angles on it. There's little slots already cut into these for the saw to fit in there perfectly. So just get this little kit here. It's 15 bucks, and you don't really need all the power tools to get it done. And then aside from this, you're probably gonna want some sandpaper and then something to finish it with. I'm probably just gonna hit it with a little bit of spray paint. So, all right, so we got all the materials. Gonna get back to the house. We're gonna start laying everything out, and we'll figure out the exact cuts that I'm gonna do for everything. I know I wound up, since the skeleton of the whole thing, the dowel piece, is 3/8 by 3/8. I need to make it 3/4 of an inch bigger on the width. Yes, 3/4 of an inch bigger on the width, and then I'm also gonna add an 1/8 inch to that. So I'll show you guys what I'm talking about when we get back. All right, I'm gonna be using this piece of wood here. My tools, I'm gonna need the top loader that I'm gonna use to frame it in. I'm gonna use the a 2-foot level. That's just to have a straight edge. Ideally, you'd like to have 5 of these. I got 3, so we're gonna try and make it work with the 3. Mechanical pencil. Any kind of pencil, writing utensil will work, just for kind of like laying it out. My 2 pieces of material. This is my face material, and the skeleton. I'm gonna be using the dowel rod and the screen. I got the saw that I picked up. Go ahead and get this crap off of it. I got the miter box I'm going to use to cut the 45s in the face of this so it has a nice finished look. Some wood glue. I'm using Elmer's. The paint that I'm using is this, here's the wood glue. Bam. The paint that I'm using is Rust-Oleum Universal Forged Hammer, and the color's Antique Pewter. I'm using a paint with a little bit of texture in it because the wood isn't 100% perfect. Let's see if we can get you guys zoomed into this wood. See, there's some like little pits and stuff in the material there. That stuff would show up with a smooth color paint because the paint's not going to do a very good job filling those voids. So yeah, let's get started. I'm going to put the dowel up here on the wood. I'm going to mark it out. I flushed up this side here, and can you guys see that? Right? Yeah. I flushed up the back side here, and then I made a mark on the front, so you can see I have 3/8 from here to here. My top loader, I'm going to go flush to that line. I'm going to give it probably a 1/16 of wiggle room. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go an 1/8 inch of wiggle room. So you can see here I got the little line there, about an 1/8 inch of wiggle room, and I'm going to put this side tight. And what that's going to do is give me a 1/16 on either side to get this thing into position to be able to slide it in and out. So I'm not going to mark it all the way up and down. I'm just making a temporary mark for now. I'll hit the sticker. But from the outside edge here to this line should be my cut. And if my math is right, it should be about 8 3/8. And it's 8 7/16. So I'm a 1/16 bigger than I wanted to be, but that should be good. So 8 7/16. I'm going to transfer that down here, 8 7/16. I'm going to get my straight edge on this over here so you guys can see. 8 7/16, 8 7/16. Check it with the pencil. Check that one with the pencil. And I'm a little to the inside of this line, but it's perfect. Here and here. Yeah, just money all the way down. So that's the thickness of the 2 dowels, and then I want these dowels to be cut this direction. They're going to sit down just below the edge. So we're going to say this is going to be there. The top loader is going to be just below the edge of the frame, and then we're going to have another piece of dowel at the bottom here, so that's where that's going to sit. We'll flip the dowel around, set the dowel on the bottom. So that's what it would look like sitting in the frame, pretty much. And then we'll mark out the bottom here. Let's get you guys set up. Mark out the bottom here. So now that I got a little mark, I'm going to transfer that mark over here so everything's square still. Say 11 3/4. Let's make a mark over here at 11 3/4. double check. 11 3/4, 11 3/4. So this is a straight edge because that piece of wood. Use a straight edge here because that piece of wood might not be 100% straight. Alright, so that cut is what I'm going to need to make my hole backing for my board, for the background to hold my comic. So those measurements are 11 3/4 by 8 7/16 using this top loader, which is 7.5 by 11. And what that does is allows me to put a full dowel down the side and then cut a dowel in between. So if I mark that out on here, it's going to look like this. I'll show you guys this. Full dowel. Full dowel. And then this dowel is going to be cut to fit in between. Let me rotate that because I got a sticker in the way. From that line to that line. Alright, so that's what my skeleton's going to look like. So you can see I stopped it here and here. These two will run continuous, and that way when it's sitting flat up against the wall, and the comic book sitting flat up against the wall, you'll have a whole finished edge, and then you won't see the splice underneath. So let me get this cut out. I think this is going to work good for the miter box, but because of this lip right here, I'm not going to be able to get past this wood, I don't think. I'm bottoming out. Alright, so let me get a hacksaw blade. I can't get this thing color balance. Yeah, I just got one of these Linux hacksaw blades. It's a fine tooth blade, so I should be able to cut this wood without splintering up too bad. I'm gonna use my hand to hold it. Because this wood's relatively soft. Another thing you're going to want to do is take these clamps and put them on the open cuts that you already did. On the open end. That way it doesn't break off and then leave you like with this big nasty splintered edge. Alright. Pop that off. Pop that off. And then here's the first piece. So, because I had to use the hacksaw, my edge isn't going to be 100% flat, but that's okay. I'm still going to glue my dowels up where my pencil lines are, and then we'll use sandpaper at the end to take down the little hills and whatnot. Alright, so I'm gonna I took the measurements. I don't know if you guys can see this very good from the other angle, but I took a measurement from the top here to the bottom of the frame, right there. I'm going to cut that out, and that's going to be my first side. I'm going to use the miter box here. Just going to hold it tight up against the inside edge here. And this should give me a really straight line. And then this saw is made for this thing pretty much. I'm just going to cut that out. Alright, so here's the first cut. That's going to sit right on there like that. Then the next cut, I'm going to cut for the other side. Go ahead and lay it up there. Make a mark right to the backside edge. So there's my mark. Lay it up in the miter box and cut it just enough to leave that mark still there. There's the cut, and you can see I lay the wood back down, the mark is just ever so slightly still there. So that leaves me that cut there. Perfect. And then the last cut, we're gonna cut between these two dowels. So I'm gonna push that to the edge. I'm gonna push that to the edge. I mean, I could do this with a tape measure, but I'm not. So right there to the, started on this line here. You can't see what I'm doing, can you? Started it on this line here, so this will be sitting right up against that one. And then this one is gonna be coming all the way down, so we wanna cut this whole mark off here. Get that burr off of there. So we're gonna wanna cut that whole mark there. So you can see right there, right there. That little section's coming off. This one you're gonna do the same thing right up to that line. Get you back over here in the miter box. I'm gonna hold that thing. I'm gonna put pressure on it right here with my fingertips. Alright, and then that's how much I had left. So I got just enough with one dowel to make one whole frame. So you see here, I'll turn you guys a little bit. I got the bottom piece. I'm gonna break these splinters off. Sticker out of the way. So that one's gonna go there, side's gonna go there, side's gonna go here. We're gonna glue all that up, and then that'll be the first step. So let me get this glue popping. I also got this piece of t-shirt. I don't know if I told you guys about that in my tool list. Use it to wipe my forehead because it's toasty out here. Just get some wood glue. I'm gonna, oops, get some wood glue all down that edge there. I'm gonna use this cutoff piece that I had left over to smear that flat, because you don't need a huge amount of glue. I'm gonna put that right there on this. I'm gonna lay that there. Alright, I'm gonna use this t-shirt and wipe up that little drop that I smeared. Alright, and then the next one. Use my little cutoff piece. Smear it nice and flat, because you're gonna get a better adhesion if you got it even. It'll be a better bond, I guess you should say. And since we're not using any nails or screws or anything for this, you're gonna need a good bond. Alright, so smeared all that on. Hopefully that was in camera. You guys could see that. Yeah, just put the glue on, use this piece of wood and just smear it all off. And line up those. Make sure everything's lined up. Before I set the tiles on top, I'm gonna double check the top loader, make sure the top loader fits in all three directions, and it looks like it does. So let's go ahead and tile on. Couple more tiles. Okay. Check it out, make sure everything looks okay. Yeah, I think we're gonna be in business with that. And it's okay if a little bit of glue squeezes out. That glue can be cut off with a razor knife or just sand it down later. Sanding is going to be a little bit more of a pain in the butt, so I might just take it off with the razor knife before I sand it down. But let's let that set up and we'll get to the next step. Alright, so it's been about an hour. This thing's still sitting under the tile right here. Went and had some dinner, came back out. I'm going to finish cracking this thing out. The next step that I got for this, drop it down a little bit. Next step I got for this is to cut the face. So, yeah, Cuts on there really good. Alright, so double check the top loader. Sits in there perfectly. Got the perfect amount of wiggle room. Got a nice little lip up top so it stays hidden. Alright. So next up, 8 7/16, 8 7/16 on the money. So I'm going to cut this. First I'm going to cut the 45. Get my little miter box set up. We're going to cut an angle in this, 45-degree angle, like that. Not sure if it's showing up or not. Cut that 45-degree angle. Gotta kind of get this in here like a picture frame. So we got our first angle. So it's gonna sit on the edge of the board. I guess you guys are slowly drifting. It's gonna sit like that. So I'm gonna cut another one at the opposite angle. And we're gonna picture frame this thing in. I see the angle right there. So, first thing I'm gonna do, get my size. This is gonna be 11 3/4. We already had that size. We already knew that size, so we're gonna put a tape measure on it. Measure out 11 3/4 from point to point. 11 3/4 is there. So there's my mark. So I'm going to cut this angle. I'm going to cut that angle to that line, to the point. I'll show you guys that now. I'm going to be putting it in the other slot now. So there's the piece from this point to this point, 11 3/4. We should be able to set it up there and the point should match up. And the good thing about this material is since it's symmetrical, that the profile is so I can show you the profile. The profile is the same on this side as it is on this side. I don't have to make another cut. I can use this cut to match up to that cut and we should be good to go. So I'm going to cut two of those, 11 3/4, 11 3/4. I always cut the bigger pieces, and that way if I make a mistake and I have to cut one down, like say if I cut the wrong angle, I can just use that piece that I cut the wrong angle on the smaller piece, and hopefully I had enough material to get by, which I should. I bought a couple inches extra than I needed. The next cut is going to be the width of this frame. So we got the two verticals, now we're going to do two horizontals, 8 7/16. Alright, so there's the first one, and then I got to cut one more at 8 7/16 for the top piece, 8 7/16. Alright, since I already have this angle right here, I need to cut that angle. Here we go. This is how much material I have left over from that stick. So this saw, it's a fine tooth, so it does a pretty good job keeping everything in order. You can see I put my cuts together, and they're not too not too many burrs. But I'm still gonna clean these things up with a piece of sandpaper real quick, so let me grab that. So I got a piece of 150 grit. It should be more than fine for this since it's such soft wood. But I'm just gonna keep it on this flat surface, and I'm gonna use the wood and just go back and forth in the wood to kind of just get rid of all the burrs. I'm not doing too much sanding. Just getting rid of all the burrs on the edges. Do this in all flat. Last one. All right, so now we got those burrs taken down. I'm going to assemble this monkey. So, double check it, make sure it all looks good. Just gonna lay them on there for now. Alright, that's it. So the trickiest part of this is going to be this top piece, because the only thing going to be holding this top piece in is going to be a little bit of this piece of wood right here, and then the 45 in between these two. So this one will be the easiest one that gets knocked off. So I'm going to do that one last. I'm going to get these set up, but instead of putting the glue on the piece like we did on the first part, we're going to put it on that same skeleton piece. That way we don't get glue where we don't want it. So, got my t-shirt and my piece of dowel. We're just gonna run a bead all the way around this thing. See, can you guys even see what I'm doing? Alright, so I'm gonna run a bead all the way down, all the way across. Try not to get too hung up on the material. Alright, so now I got that bead. Take my little piece of scrap wood here. Tool that on there pretty flat. I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% flat because we gotta have enough glue on here to get to both pieces. Need more. Mas. Okay. Yeah, pretty even. Call that good. Start setting our pieces up there. Flushing them up real good. Put that one there and there. This one here. And there. Just kind of touch them into place. This one here. And then last, I'm going to put a piece of glue on this 45 here. I'm going to get it, actually put it on the stick, and I'm going to smear it onto the face of that, or the edge. Not the face, but the edge. And here, get it all right there. Get a nice little dab of glue there and there. And then this puppy, I'm going to squish all of that glue through both of these, there and there. Alright. Alright, so we get it all set up, get all the corners matching. Put the first tile down on that whole thing, and then the rest of the tiles down. We'll keep pressure on that, Double check it, make sure everything looks good. And we had a couple gaps, and I'll show you how to fill those gaps after this dries, so I'll come back in 30 minutes. Let's see what we got now. It's been about 30 minutes. We're gonna pop this thing out of the frame right here. Pull these forward so it doesn't tip my camera over. And there it is. So the only thing I don't like about this is I don't know if maybe my saw was cutting at an angle or something, but a couple of these, like see, it has a tight corner here, but there it's loose. And I think what happened is the backs were touching, but the fronts were. I don't know if it could even happen when I was sanding it, but what I'm gonna do to fix that, before I sand the edges, because you can see I have like a hard edge right there, we're gonna sand all that down with probably some 80 grit sandpaper, or yeah, 80 grit will be a little bit faster. All right, so before I do that, I'm gonna put some glue in here and get some of this sawdust. Let me get some sawdust with this real quick. See, it's making some dust. I'm probably definitely gonna need a higher grit. But what I'm trying to do right here is get some sawdust collected. I have plenty of it. And inside of my miter box I have a little pocket of dust here. So what I'm gonna do with that dust is I'm gonna put some glue in these two corners, here and here, and then I'm gonna drop that sawdust into these corners and make my own little wood filler. So drop that on there, drop the sawdust, just sprinkle it on. And then all I'm doing is trying to fill in that thing with wood and glue to make my own wood filler. And then I'm going to sand that all down. There's one, and then the other one. And I'm going real quick. Some glue. See if I can't drop this sawdust onto my top loader right here. That way I can see it better. So, take all that sawdust, just drop it right on that glue. Kind of roll it into that corner. Yeah, that should be good. All right. Top loader on. Okay, so that's had about 10 minutes to dry. I've gone over and I've got some, I think this is 60 grit, but it's used. So the 60 grit stands for 60 little grits per square inch, I think. And since it's used, I've probably knocked off a bunch of those grits. So it's probably in the 80 grit family. I do have some 80 grit paper in there, but I don't want to bust open a new pack of sanding discs just for this little project. But yeah, it's been about 5-10 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and start knocking this down, and then I'm gonna start with this. We'll call it an 80 grit, and then I'm gonna go down to this 150 grit. I'm just gonna skip a couple grits, but for this project, it should be fine. here is I got this little shadow line right there. A little shadow line. I'm just taking that straight down. That's all you have to do. You put some elbow grease into it and you can get it down pretty good. I am actually going to hit this with my table sander because I want to make faster work of this. So let me grab that real quick. Alright, so I got this tabletop belt sander to help me knock this down a little bit faster. This is going to make my life a lot easier. You guys don't have to use this. As you can see, I was doing it with the disc by hand, but it will take you a little bit longer. But my goal is to get rid of all these little shadows. Let me see if I can't get it. The white balance good. See, there's like a little lip that's on the edge of these. I'm going to take all these lips down. I'm going to clean up all these little edges all the way around. And that tool is going to help me do this a lot faster. You don't have to use it, but it helps me. I'm lazy. Alright, so I was able to get these edges all perfectly flush. That made my job so much easier. I was able to do it in like a couple minutes versus, 15-20 minutes. You can see right here, I still got a little pocket of glue, so I'm gonna knock that down real quick too. Yeah, I think it's good. I got the edges done. I got a little bit of a hump or something right there. That might just be where I was going right there and it just didn't hit that edge. I could probably straighten that up, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's not a huge deal. It doesn't show up in the front. But I got all the edges tamed up. The only thing I have left to do is where those gaps were. I saved those for last just so I could hit those by hand. So I'm going to get the 150 grit out. I'm going to clean up all the face of this material right here. You see right here? Let me bring you guys back over here. Alright. You can see right here when I'm sanding. There. I'm getting all that big ball of glue. Alright, 150 seems about perfect, I guess. Took out a lot of the pits in the wood. I mean, these are still going to show up, but I did pick out a textured paint. And textured paint will help me hide all the imperfections. Alright, so this thing has a up and down pattern. You see right there, it has like an up and down spray pattern. So you hit this thing right here. What I'm gonna do, set up some of my little pieces of scrap wood. I'm gonna flip this thing over by hand so I can get the face of it. That'll work for me, so. Keep this thing shaking. This is the part that everybody's gonna see, so. Alright, so I'm back. It's been 24 hours and I have the frame here. So this is what it wound up looking like. This is what it looked like before. So I can just hold that real quick. This is what it looks like after. That's it. Just a basic comic book frame. And then you could either drill like a little, say like a 3/16 hole in the back, put a little finish nail on the wall, and you could just sit it on that finish nail. And then another thing, if I had to go back and do it again, I'd probably use a thicker, a little bit wider material here to cover the edges a little bit more, because you can still see a little bit of the edge of the book, which I guess is better than covering up some of the art. But it's not too bad. But that's it. Simple comic book frame. Thank you guys for watching and have a good week. I'll see you guys next time. Peace!